like the venue is only $3,000. The costs are kind of being like pushed onto the guests.
Essentially what that video is saying is that destination weddings can be marketed as this much cheaper experience for the bride and groom, but what's happening is that those costs are actually being pushed onto some of the guests because they're going to need, flights, maybe further flights. We're talking out of the country destination type weddings. They're going to have probably additional hotel expenses, that sort of thing. And Erin's content is amazing. If you've never seen her videos, go watch it, go watch that full video. But I am a 2026 destination wedding bride, and we're doing things a little bit differently to be really conscious of this for our guests. So let's talk about that. First thing that we are doing to help with some of these costs, and I'm not just talking monetary costs here, I'm also talking about like time off, is we are skipping bachelor and bachelorette parties. Instead, we are just hosting a 5-day group trip essentially to the south of France with 30 of our closest friends and family. It's essentially going to be immediate family, and if you would have been in the bridal party, which is another thing we're also skipping, if you would have been in the bridal party, it's basically you and your +1, and that is essentially the essence of who's invited to the wedding. We're also planning our wedding over Memorial Day weekend, so people will have that extra day of PTO, or most of them will have that day of PTO if you're in a corporate job where you don't have to work on that Monday after our wedding. The next thing that we are doing is we are hosting this in a smaller town in the south of France. So instead of going to like Nice or something, being in a smaller town, costs just in general are much cheaper. And that's, I think, kind of what Erin's video is saying, is a lot of the times these areas can have much cheaper costs of like venues and services and goods like that, but then people have to pay for all of their travel. So we're also doing some things to help with the travel costs. So because we're not having to pay a lot of money for those sorts of things like the goods and services and all of that, we are also going to be paying for people's accommodations who are attending the wedding. We're actually looking at booking out an entire hotel for this, a boutique hotel. But that is how we want to make sure that we can make sure our guests aren't stressed out about affording this wedding. And because we're able to save in other areas, this is something that my partner especially, like, he really wants to take on and help make it more feasible for our guests. Another thing that we are doing is basically everyone will have about a year's notice, year plus of notice for our wedding. That's a lot of time to plan. I am in the travel space and do a lot of, points and miles things. So one of the things I'm also doing with our guests is having them put in like, do you want help finding flights? Do you have any credit card points? Like, what can I do with my skills to help make this as easy as it can be for you? The hard costs are like money and PTO, but there's also like soft costs of like the stress of trying to plan your flights, especially if they're international, finding transportation, hotels, like all of that can be so stressful. So we're just trying to help make that a little bit easier for everyone as well. We're still figuring it out and still planning everything, but those are just some of the things that we immediately talked about when we started pursuing a destination wedding. But let me know if you have any other good ideas or thoughts on this whole process and destination weddings in general in the comments.